when you really think about what music is, it doesn't make sense. Because it's like, literally, it's like, here's a note, right? When you hear one note, it's like, okay. But then you hear it in combination with another note, and all of a sudden you're crying. You're like, what is this?
And like, once you see it, you can't unsee it. Yeah. And now it's just like constantly in my head.
I can't stop. Right?
I'll look up at a sign and it's like 333. And I'm like, why? Why today? Why? I wasn't planning to have this like existential crisis based on a sign that I saw.
Every day. Sifa will say something to me. She'll be like, oh, it's on this date? Hold on. That's good. That's a good date. And I'm like, wait, what the fuck just happened? Like, cause you take the 4, you add the 7, but then it's a 2, but then you add the 2 and the 1, now it's a 3. And I'm like, oh.
So I'll say one thing that like, I don't do like the adding or anything. Like my girlfriend does all that stuff. But like if I see like the repeating numbers, then I'm like, all right, you got my attention. And I learned that from doing the adding for my birthday, my life number is 8. So anytime you see like 888 or like repeating constantly, it means that like you're doing what you're supposed to be doing apparently. Yeah. And a lot of times when I'm doing music shit, I look up and I see that and I'm like, all right, cool. Like I see you now.
It
like,
represents infinity, like 8.
Yeah, because 8 goes forever, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mine is a 5. But it's like, it's weird. Sometimes you're just like, I feel like numbers do make some type of sense though. Because I feel like everything adds up in my life to a lot of 5s a lot of times.
Really? Okay.
So, I don't know.
Isn't 5 the number of change?
Yeah.
They say?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was doing this meditation one time, right? And I felt like I was like my house, like the way my body is. I was like, this is a triangle with a straight line that goes out like this and comes back up. So it's basically a triangle with a line and a W. Okay. Right? So I did the numerology for triangle and line and W, and I promise you it all added up to a 5.
Wait, so how do you, so when you say you did the numerology for like you take the letter of each, like of each alphabet? Wait, how?
Yes.
Like T is whatever the 20th letter.
And then R is number 18, and 18 is a 8 plus 1, so that's a 9. Like I sat with it for a while on the roof, but I was hot.
It's like that gif of like, it's that gif of like the lady staring intently with like all the theory, like all the what's the word? The formulas flying at her face.
For real.
Yeah, good for you, because I couldn't even sit down. If I sat down and was like triangle, I would lose. I don't have the attention span.
I was going crazy, and I was like, no, you're going to get this. You're on the roof doing nothing. You're staring into the darkness, listening to music.
Wait, like, so you did it with just all in your head?
Yeah, all in my head. And yeah, it all ended up being a 5. And I was like,
sit down. So you must have been blind blown though.
I was, because I couldn't believe it. Like triangle actually adds up to 5, and I was just like, I'm gonna keep going. I was like, let's try line, and then it's like all the numbers that added up. Once I got the sum of the triangle and the line and the W, it all
so
was
wait,
5.
Does each angle get a number, or like, is it the spelling of the word?
The spelling. So the word triangle, the T, which is the 20th letter, the R, which is the 18th, the I, which is
and then you do the numerology add, where it's like the sum of the numbers at the end.
Yes, and then just keep adding and then add them together, and then like it became a 5, and then I was like, let me keep going. Let me see what line adds up to, and I was like, I swear, if all of this ends up as a 5, I'm gonna be crazy mind blown. And it did.
So triangle, line, and W?
Yeah.
You know what's crazy about this? This is the kind of math they're teaching kids in school today. This is like Common Core math. We're doing it for fun. They're doing it for real.
Yeah, I don't envy them at all. My brother tried to tell me something because he's a teacher. He was like, yeah, this is the math or whatever. And I was just like, no.
Yeah, my best friend Chris is a history teacher. He gives me all the stories. I'm like, thank God. I can't believe I'm saying this. Thank God we went to school and we did. But it wasn't like totally destroyed yet.
Yeah. Wait, so for W, is it just the number in the alphabet that W is, or you spell out the word W?
No, for W, I did what letter of the alphabet it was. I think it's the 24th. W, X, Y, Z. Z is like 26, right?
Yeah.
Z, Y, 25.
But if it was 5, it would have to be
23.
23.
20,
23.
23.
3 and 2.
That's a good one.
That's what I'm saying. I was like, I'm going to keep going. That's the only reason why I kept adding, because I just kept getting 5s, and I was like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay.
It starts with the gif of all the formulas flying, and then it ends up the one with the guy who's like cracked out smoking the cigarette. Like, whoa. Everything's 5.
It's either all the formulas or it's Charlie with the push pad. You know what I mean?
Charlie from Sunny?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's either one of those two.
When he's in the envelope room?
Yeah. There is no Carol. Wait, did we start? Oh, what's
Bonus content.
the number 1, number 4. Okay, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to Music Maniacs with Side After Dark. We're Side After Dark. I'm Dan Berg.
I'm Sifa Graffiti.
We are joined today by a very special guest, our boy Eskay in the house.
In the house.
Very special occasion. Not only are we all in the studio, but we are all going to be playing a show together July 13th at FirstLive Brooklyn. It is a sick venue.
Yeah.
We got to take you there before we go.
Yeah, I would love to know. Tell me some stuff about it.
Oh, bro. So we just did the open mic there. Like, was that last week or the week before? I don't know.
Feels like forever, but it was exactly last week. It was last week.
Okay, so the venue is sick. So basically, imagine all the equipment that you see in here, but spread throughout the venue.
Okay.
Right? So it's basically a giant recording studio with a bar in the middle. So you walk in.
Okay.
There's like a couch and everything, big chill room, big TV that has like the performance like space on it.
Okay.
To the left is the whole control panel, like all the soundboards. There's like 6 different cameras that they use for the live streaming that they're switching between. So you can see all the equipment right here.
Very nice.
Bar in the middle. Then you go to the back room and that's where the whole performance room is set up.
Nice.
Yeah. So it's honestly one of the coolest, like smaller venues that I've seen. It's like very high tech, very, very sophisticated, it feels like.
Yeah.
And one of the coolest things about it is like, because we know people that like that know us from YouTube or whatever, we'll do a show and they're like, oh, I would love to come to Brooklyn, but I live in Denmark.
Yes.
And it's like, okay, well, that kind of sucks for that you can't make it to the show. But in this case, it's great because they have a super awesome live streaming setup. So they're having live stream tickets available as well. So anywhere in the world where you are, you can tune into this show. No excuses.
Exactly.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah. So what were we talking about? We were talking about numbers and shit.
We were talking before we started recording. We were talking about numbers and stuff, and then we started talking about.
Wait, so the show is July 13th. So let's break this down.
All right.
So
we got a 7.
Where do I start with?
You got to have 24.
Okay, 7 is good.
7 is good.
7's good.
And then the 13th is a 3 and a 1, so that's a 4.
Okay.
So that's an 11.
That's
7,
good.
8, 9, 10, 11.
11.
That's good.
So that's a 2. Yes, and 2024. So that's a 2 for the month and the date. That's a 2.
2s are good.
Yeah, 2s are good.
So only 6s are bad, or what's bad?
I mean, people say 6 are bad, but we're human, so we're 6. We've got like 6, 6, 6.
None of them are
up of 6,
inherently
6, 6.
bad. Like they can either all be good or all be bad.
Go back to that.
Aren't we like protons, neutrons, and electrons? Isn't it all like 6?
Is that all 6?
Or was it 4?
What?
I don't know. You're losing me now.
Like
I was a
6
chemistry major.
Wait,
for you,
neurons, protons.
Wait, like the number of different things in the atom?
Yeah.
Oh, like, okay, wait, neutron, proton, electron.
I swear it was all 6.
Wow.
Well, then you have your
tell that I
subatomic
wasn't a
particles, your
chemist.
quarks. So we can get really technical here.
So how deep are we going is really the question.
Yeah. But let's do the date. So the date, we were on the 2, right? So we did 7, 4, 13. That made an 11, which made a 2 because 1 + 1 = 2.
Yes.
And now we got to add the year, 2024. So that's 2 + 2 is 4.
Right.
And 0 is nothing. And then that's 8.
8.
So we got 8, 9, 10. So it's a 1. So it's just a nice solid number.
1 signifies new beginnings.
Yeah.
So crazy to me. You can have all the numbers and then you just still end up at 1.
Yeah, right?
That's wild. Yeah. Okay, shout out to the number 1.
Yeah.
Shout out to the number 1 everywhere.
New beginnings. Yeah, I don't know all the significances for the numbers. I know like certain ones like the 7, the 8, and of course mine is the 5.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's usually it. And of course like 3. I mean, but everybody kind of knows 3. It's just like, a trifecta or, something kind of perfect in a way. Like
they say 3 is a significant number for creativity.
Oh, see, yeah, I don't know those details.
Who is they? Is really the question.
There's always a they.
I feel like that's the question for anything.
This is all from the Encyclopedia of Elle. I don't know if that's like verified or not, but she claims to be a master at this. So
there it is.
Yeah.
I'll definitely talk to her about this next time I see her.
Oh, she'll have you down for a couple of hours.
Okay, I'm in. That's great. All right, so let's talk about music.
Yeah.
Are you guys into that? Do you guys like music?
Yeah,
or
I
no?
think so.
I like music.
So
I do it.
So I think this is going to be a really fun show because I feel like it's not a problem necessarily, but I feel like we've run into a kind of a thing where we don't really know where we fit into shows sometimes.
No.
Because we're not really a rock band. We're not a DJ. We're not like rappers necessarily. We're just like somewhere in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
But we're definitely electronic, right? And you're a DJ.
I'm a DJ.
We know what you do. We've heard you. We like you. And I feel like something about what we do does kind of work together.
Yeah.
But I don't really know why. You know what I mean? I'm just like, when I'm in my head, I'm like, this makes sense. Let's do that.
Hell yeah.
You know what I mean? And I just want to say also, like, sometimes you meet people everyone likes music, right? Everyone says they like music. But sometimes you meet people when you talk about music, you can see the fucking light in their eye. And you were always one of those people. So I just want to shout that out.
My favorite thing in the whole world, man.
That's
my favorite thing.
That's how I knew before we even like spoke about us doing a show or performing together. I was like, this guy gets it.
Yeah, yeah. I felt like when I first met you, I was like, this guy embodies club DJ. Like you do. Like,
I try. It's just like a very it's not just like a thing that I like to do. Like I always say, it's what I do. And I like that it's kind of almost like a spiritual thing too. You know, like it's not. You know, I've been in bands and I played instruments and stuff like my whole life growing up, but then like when I found this, it just took it to a whole nother level, kind of like that. You just feel like you're exactly where you're supposed to be.
Right.
And that's how I feel every time I do it. And there's just like really nothing that beats that for me. And yeah, definitely. I love the atmosphere of the club. Like that's like my favorite place. That's like my church. You know, like being in the club, looking around, seeing all the different types of people, all beautiful people, all people having fun. Nothing else really matters. You know, it could be the worst day, it could be the best day. All that doesn't really matter. It's just like what's going on in that room at the moment. I love the intimacy of a nightclub. You know, like you get that small room of like, you know, depending on where you are, 100, 500 people if you're lucky. And just that's not too big to still have that feeling. You know, you guys have probably been to music festivals and concerts. You get that kind of vibe too, and everybody's singing along and whatever, but you're not like in it with the people next to you all the time. When you're in the club, like that person standing next to you might be your new best friend. Right. Which has happened to me plenty of times.
Yeah. That's a good point. I think it's something I mentioned though, it's really interesting. Like the spiritual aspect of music, I feel like is not even talked about enough. Like it's definitely talked about.
No, it's not talked about enough.
But people don't even realize, like when you really think about what music is, it doesn't make sense. Because it's like, literally it's like, here's a note, right? When you hear one note, it's like, okay. But then you hear it in combination with another note, and all of a sudden you're crying. You're like, what is this? You're like, how are these vibrations literally creating this emotional response in me that I'm not thinking, oh, I want to react like this. It just happens.
Yeah. Exactly.
Like what? Like that's like the most pure form of magic in the real world, I think. You know what I mean?
That's exactly what it is for me with house music. Like house music is not complicated. It's not like, you know, a lot of people hate on it because they're like, oh, you know, it's just like a couple of notes and this and that. But it's the sequencing of those notes, like the position that they're in, the order that they're in, the separation from the other parts of a song. Like most people don't know, a house track is usually anywhere from like 20 to 50 tracks, like, you know, different lines in your software, whatever it is you're using to make it. So it's actually all these tiny moving parts that go together to make one thing. And that intricacy between them makes something that other types of music can't. And like, that's why it resonates with me is like, you don't know why you're feeling it. You're just like, you can hear a couple of seventh chords and then like a weird suspended one come in and you're like, yeah, like what the fuck just happened? Like that was crazy. And like, that's just what it is. It doesn't have to make sense. It's just kind of beautiful the way it exists.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think a lot of times people don't really know the difference. Cause I mean, it started out with house and then we broke into kind of dance and then kind of techno took over. I feel like when techno took over, a lot of people kind of broke away from house music because it wasn't as soulful and spiritual. It's more like it was like very, very sharp and loud.
Well, fun fact is that techno's been around the longest. Techno is like really the first implementation of electronic music in documented history. Like back in the late 70s in Detroit, you know, you had guys like Juan Atkins and you know the Belleville Three. Everybody knows who that is, but they were making music to like kind of combat how that community's music had kind of almost gone mainstream and had gotten to a point where it didn't belong to them anymore in a sense. And then people started making tracks on, you know, 8 tracks, recording things, looping them, and created this dark sound techno. House spun out of that in Chicago in the 80s. That's when it started getting kind of popular.
Yeah, and that got huge. I can understand why that would get more huge than techno, like or faster.
It's more of an acquired taste, techno for sure.
Yeah, I mean, and there's some techno songs that are really, really great, but I feel like when it dominated like the dance era, I feel like people started kind of breaking away from it. And then that, I feel like that left room for people to say like it's not really like music or anything. Because when house music is good, it's good. Like, you know?
Well, techno is too. Like I'm really not a huge techno fan, and I like just as my personal taste, but like I have a ton of respect for it because like that was the first really like, we're going to just like drop the instruments on the ground and like, we're just going to use all these different machines. And like, you know, back in the day, they used to have like synthesizers that were made from the weirdest parts that you'd ever think of. It looked like a science experiment.
Giant,
and like
they would take up like a whole wall.
And you could make these ridiculous sounds using it, loop them, put them with drum beats, put them with whatever. Like that's what made it so monumental. It was the first music to be like, we're just going to take a hard right turn. And if you want to follow us, great. If not, like we're just going to do it anyway. And, you know, techno, because it is more aggressive, it was probably like a little more aggressive than the mood of the time. You know, people in the 70s were all about, you know, the disco and the party and this and that. Techno is like a very like kind of somber, aggressive kind of thing.
I like mainstream techno. It's like
but you're saying so during that time it went a little more underground because it wasn't.
Well, that's why it started, was to go deep into the underground.
Yeah.
And house music was too. I mean, house music really got popular because of, again, the different communities that like weren't represented in mainstream music. Like house music was super championed by like the gay community, and techno was started by the African American community. And like both of those communities wanted to go more into the underground, right? Like jazz was now mainstream, and jazz spun into, you know, a lot of not so great categories of music. And they were like, no, we're done. And like they went further into the underground and tried their best to keep it there. And then what you mentioned, dance music or EDM, if we're going to split hairs here, that's like the second coming of that, you know, like mainstream kind of whatever is just like, and I'm not shitting on it. If you like what you like whatever you like is cool. But like that generation of music is like that now, trying to bring it back out of the underground.
Yeah.
I think it's best kept a little bit lower because it is so special.
Well, you know me. I always say, don't get too big on me.
Yeah. But everybody likes different things, and that's cool. Like, whatever you do, if you get that feeling from, like, dubstep, or I'll throw a weird one out there, psytrance, which, like, I personally don't know many people that like that. But if you like it, it makes you feel that way, great. Like, do it. Like, that's what it's all about.
For sure. I think that's cool. What's your favorite era of house music? Like, if you can pick a year, a decade, time.
So as an artist, I'm really new school. Like I'm always, every set is like usually a combination of the newest things that I'm finding, because I find now that I'm making music too, like my taste is just constantly changing. But if I had to pick like an old school era of like the golden age, so to speak, would probably be like the early 90s New York City, like deep house.
Yeah, that was like, really a good time.
Like 124 BPM, slower, just like super emotional gospel vocals over like some octave synthesizers and kind of like a little bit of a swingy beat. Like that's when it like changed personally. And I try to bring that into my own style.
I used to wish I was a grown up. Like, you would hear like cars passing by playing that kind of music, and not just that, but the fashions that like reflected the house era. I was like 4, but 5, but still like, man, this is like really cool. I can't wait till I get older. But you know, times change.
But
looks change. Like they don't wear shoes, like big shoes with like huge bows on them, or people don't have like polka dot silk
Jenko jeans,
stuff like that. Like, you know,
Jenko jeans are the big thing. But all that stuff is kind of coming back. Like if you notice like the cargo pants with like 90 different pockets that no one's actually using because they wear a satchel, like that's coming back. The oversized t-shirts are coming back.
I saw LL Cool J in that just yesterday, like really huge, like wide leg pants.
Yep.
He has a new song out. So I guess he's like trying to keep up. Like,
for a second, I thought you meant like you saw him on the street.
No.
I was like, that's sick.
That'd have been crazy.
Yeah, like that was very casual the way you said that. I saw LL yesterday. He's doing all right.
We were in Queens. We were just hanging out.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
It's funny that you brought him up though. I know LL Cool J's. Not personally, but I can't say what my relationship to him was, but I've gotten a chance to talk with him a few times. He's great. Such a nice guy.
He's a legend. On top of that, he's living.
He is.
Okay?
Yep, he is. And he's still doing it. Like he's still putting music, like you just said, he's still putting music out there. He's gonna do it till he dies.
Yeah. I mean, he's
Respect.
Great. He's like everything you want to look up to in rap in a way, because it's like he wasn't too much, he wasn't too little. Like, you know, he had his fair share of rope chains and stuff like that, but it wasn't like too much. Like, you know what I'm saying? You didn't feel like he was gonna rob you. Like, you know, certain rappers felt like they were gonna rob your ass. Like, Wu-Tang,
he was kind of like
Wu-Tang would rob you.
Wu-Tang would rob you.
He was kind of like, I don't want to use, I'm like, not, this might not be the right word, but like almost like he brought like a little bit of that like pop element to like hip hop, you know, like it was more approachable for more people. It wasn't like you said, like Wu-Tang was like hardcore hip hop. Like, and if you like that, like you were a diehard hip hop fan and like you were into everything, the culture, the scene. But like LL Cool J was kind of like, let me try to make this a little bit more digestible for like people who are on the fringe.
Yeah.
And he was very successful at it. Still is.
Yeah. He's like a really good rap hero for people to look up to. Even his new song it sounded good. Like, so I like that. All right. What else are we talking about? Besides music, more music.
There's other things in the world besides music?
None.
I wasn't aware.
It's so spiritual. Y'all started out talking about the spirituality of music. And I just remember when I used to sing to my animals and I used to be like, I'm Snow White. Because I had these 2 lovebirds. And like at night, I don't know. I always called it putting on their pajamas because instead of their regular sleek feathers, they would let their feathers get really fluffy. So I'm like, oh my God, they got their pajamas on. So they would like sit on the perch and I would start singing to them and they would start rocking back and forward and start like kind of closing their eyes. Like, oh my God. And my dachshund used to do it too. I would like sit and I would like sing to him. If my brother came down the stairs, my dachshund would just jump up and be like, what the fuck are you doing here? Like he interrupted the moment, but I'm like, it is music and like it is very, very spiritual. And it like transcends. Like,
that's funny you bring up the singing to the animals thing because like that's my girlfriend. She's a musician too, and she's working on her Broadway career, and she'll go through her her book and practice, and the dogs just sit there and stare at her. And like if I walk in their room, they're like, "Can you go, Dad?"
Like, what are you doing here?
We'll see you later. Like we're having mom time.
We have front row seats right now.
Yeah,
that's like you're trying to ruin our seats, man. That is such an interesting thing, especially when you talk about animal. Like we had this in this band that I used to be in college. We practiced in this guy's garage, and he had a dog that lived with, and he would just walk into the garage and just start singing with us. And it's like, I know like a lot of dogs do that, but it's like, it's fun every time.
Dogs like music too.
They just get it, man.
Yeah, they
get it.
They're way smarter than we give them credit for.
Yeah.
That's a fact.
That's definitely true.
That's a fact.
Just stop insulting adult dogs, okay?
Stop it.
Stop.
Adult dogs.
They're not babies.
You know who you are. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, your dog wants to like herd for you. Like, you know what I'm saying? He wants to like pick up sticks and stuff. Like, he wants to do so much.
They want to get things done.
You know what I mean? Like, let's go.
Not the 2 I have. They just want to sit there and just bum all day.
That's a nice life too.
But they like the music too. Like they definitely like mom singing more. But like sometimes when I'm making beats or DJing, like my one dog Bob, he'll come in and he'll sit and he likes it. And I'm like, really? You like this? Like this is kind of intense for your style. But he sits there and he'll chill for a couple hours sometimes.
Yeah.
I don't know what's cuter or funnier, the fact that he's named Bob or that he comes in and chills. My dog Bob, he likes to come in and hang out. Yeah. Sounds like a person.
Bob is bopping.
Yeah, I have Sam and Bob. Those are the names they came with too when we adopted them.
That's really cute. I always said if I get dogs again, I would get 2 dachshunds and I would name them Rambler and Gambler.
That's cute.
Something that you said earlier I wanted to bring back because I thought it was interesting. So you were talking about how a lot of the feeling of the house music is basically the space in between the layers.
Yeah.
And the space in between.
Well, that's part of it, is creating that space between them. So you can change that.
And I think in all music, that is such an underrated aspect of any kind of music because it's all about, like Miles Davis said, he's like, it's what you don't play that counts.
Yep.
Right? And I think that's such a, like, if you take that perspective into any genre, you're going to come up with more interesting things. And you're like, let me play as many notes as fast as I can.
Yeah. And then you know what I mean? And then you get crap.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it just sounds like jumbled up.
Math.
Like, if there's no space, then none of the notes have power to them.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? If you have silence for a bar, then you hit a hard chord. It's like, whoa.
Yep.
Where did that come from? And then, but if you're just bop, 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 bop all the time, you get kind of used to it, and it doesn't hit you the same way.
True.
You know what I mean? So
that's a big part of producing music too. Is
Yeah.
like when you're doing your mix down, like when you're coming up to that big drop, like you want to try to peel off some of the volume, well, without touching the layers. You want to try to peel off some of the volume just to create a little effect. So when that next note comes in, it hits so much harder.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you could change velocities and do all these other things. But like, it's great to create that extra space.
Yeah.
That's what the energy is. It shifts the energy. That's what where the energy goes.
Right.
You know, so to sound a little hippy dippy here, but that's
true,
real.
though.
It's like where the energy goes in between the parts of the song.
Yeah.
So that it can build up and then come back out again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we fully embrace all the hippy dippy shit. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about the spirituality of music. We're talking about the space being more important than the actual notes.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's like, because when you first hear that, you're like, that doesn't make sense. Like, if you don't know music enough, like you're learning it, you're like, what do you mean what you don't play?
Yeah.
And then you hear it at some point and you're like, oh. And then you can never hear anything the same way.
You can't unhear it.
Because it can sound pretentious to the uneducated ear, right? Oh, it's not what you play, man. It's what you don't play.
Okay, dude.
Yeah, like, okay. So then I'll just not play for the entire song.
And that's a song.
That is a song.
That's like Yoko Ono style.
Yeah.
Oh my God. You ever see that video when they're playing with like Chuck Berry and she just starts screaming just in the mic, like not even like musical at all. And Chuck Berry looks at her like he wants to fucking hit her with his guitar.
Yeah. I've seen that.
It's
Very
real.
hilarious.
That's
Oh
classic.
man.
Yeah. Oh, don't let me forget. There is a video of some people, they were looking for their dog, and some other people sent them a video of their dog at a house party. The dog was like spinning around and enjoying the music. It was like a pit bull. He was like making circle. I'll send it to both of you.
Yeah,
That's
awesome.
awesome.
Later. Yeah.
Wait, so it wandered from its home to this house party?
Yes, and it was like, it looked like outside, you know, when the carnival, when it's nighttime at the carnival and like music, that's what it looked like. Like, and all you saw was like neon, and the dog's like in the middle, he's just spinning around and round, and people are like dancing off at the sides. And I'm like, he snuck out to go to a party, I guess.
You gotta do what you gotta do.
That's insane.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
You say you're a newbie, but you differ from us because you're a DJ. So, like, I wanted to ask you about like seasons and times. Like, obviously, there are summer songs and there are like holiday songs and stuff like that. But do you know if there's a certain vibe for, like, let's say music in the fall, if you're going to play a show or a gig in the fall compared to if you're going to play it in the winter in January?
That's a really good question. So I would say that I wouldn't look at it as seasons. I look at it more as the venue and the time that the event is happening.
Okay.
So like if you're playing like a 2 o'clock in the afternoon set for like a day party, you're definitely going to want to keep it lighter. Like you don't want to come out there with those bangers that are just going to beat people up. And then like all the other DJs are going to hate you because they're going to be like, you didn't warm up the crowd. You just came out here and just came out guns a-blazing.
Right.
There's very much like there's energy within the set, and then there's energy between all of the artists. Like it has to gradually build up throughout the night.
Okay.
You can't have like, you know, let's say you had a lineup with like a German techno guy playing 140 BPM, like angry music. And then you had like 124 BPM, like floaty kind of like beachy kind of sound. You're not going to put the techno guy on first. Like you're just going to ruin the whole show.
Right.
That has to be the last thing. Not that I'd ever put those things in the same lineup anyway, but like you definitely, one's got to go before the other. And then I'd also say the venue that you're at changes things. Like if you're playing, you know, in the like we'll work the seasons into it. If you're playing, you know, outdoors in the summer, yeah, even if you're the headlining act, you're probably still going to do your thing, but it might be a good time to throw in some like maybe some old school beats or like things that everybody's going to know and sing along to. You know, there's that more happy energy in the summer.
Just a good time kind of.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The winter, everything's indoors, especially here in New York, or like if you're in Chicago or Detroit, like you're definitely indoors in the winter. So like that's when it can be more aggressive. And like the warehouse, the nightclub, that's when I would say that like you bring more of your dark side.
Okay.
For sure.
All right. Sounds good.
But I don't know any DJs that do like holiday songs, or I tried to do it one year and I literally spent an entire day, like I was having a Christmas party and I was like, I'm going to try to find a bunch of Christmas songs. There are no good ones out there. There's no DJ that's done that correctly yet. No offense if you're one of them, but come on. We don't want to hear Jingle Bells with like a skip beat. Like we want to hear a band play that or somebody sing that.
No. You would have to do something like really weird. You'd have to find like a Johnny Cash Christmas song and put it on a house beat. I think that would sound fun.
I mean, that could be cool. I don't know. Maybe I'll add it to my project list.
It'd have to be weird. It'd have to be like so abstract to like keep a whole holiday list. That could take like weeks to a month to like, right? To like set up.
Yeah.
If you actually wanted to do it.
Yeah, well, it really depends on what kind of project it is. Like, I would say that if it's taking you more than a week to get out of the gate, like you've picked your sounds, you've picked kind of what you're going to do, and still nothing has been arranged by the end of a week, you're probably trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. Like, it's best, especially when you're producing music, because you're doing everything. Like, you're not just writing the guitar part or the vocals, like you're doing all of it. You're arranging it, you're conducting it, so to speak, you're mixing it down. Usually you send your masters out to somebody else because you got to get away from your baby for a little while. But like, there's a lot of artists that do that on their own too. So like, it becomes a lot, right? But so if you're not like somewhere by the end of a week, like you're probably trying to do too much. That's like a general rule of thumb.
Interesting.
I've scrapped already many projects. You know, a week has gone by and I'm like, yeah, this isn't going to work. Next.
So like you'll just have the concept and be like, I couldn't make it work.
Yeah, like it's weird when you're making, you know, electronic music, like you kind of want to have your sounds picked out and like what you're going to use before you arrange it, just because like you might get into a groove of like maybe you have like a third of it figured out, and then you're like, fuck, now what do I add to it? And now that becomes a dead end. So like I feel like that dead end happens more than just having it all picked out and then being like, okay, I'm gonna try this, I'm gonna try this, because you know all the sounds work together.
Yeah.
In some respect.
That's interesting because that's something that we definitely run into sometimes when we're making songs. Because we'll make like electronically like the beat, and then we'll start to build up like, okay, where do we want to go from this? Where do we want to go from this? And sometimes it's like I have no idea where to go from this. But that's a really good idea. We should try doing that. I'm just picking up a bunch of sounds before we even start a song.
I'd say that approach is harder though when you're a band, because like when you're or like in the live performance band kind of like world, you know like who you're you know what you're all capable of and like what you're generally trying to do. When you're producing music, like there is no like you could be like, I'm gonna take this sample of SpongeBob laughing, reverse it, put it through a vocoder, and put a bunch of other shit on it, and now you have like demonic SpongeBob.
Right.
And like that's a sample that goes over your really hard synth that you've been trying to find something for. So like it's a totally different approach because there is no. When you're a band or like a live performance, you have like that identity that's kind of centered around like your style of playing, your type of vocals that you do. Like you guys know those things already. So like I feel like it's a little bit more easy to write a song like in a traditional setting when you have those kinds of parameters. If you do that with electronic music, you might get like a minute into the song and be like, I'm out of ideas. Like I have no idea why I even did this. And that's okay. That happens.
Yeah. I feel like I want to try to do that because it's not easy though.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
There's no right way to do it.
Like that's just a very interesting, because we do shit like that all the time where like usually like I'll start something with guitar and then Sifa will come in and sing. One day she just comes in and she's like, all right, you sing, I'm gonna play guitar. We'll just do shit like that on purpose, not even knowing where
you're kind of doing
go.
The same thing.
Yeah. So
yeah,
but that's just an interesting idea to like make the beat like, okay, what if we made this beat and then we figure out what we're gonna do after we made the beat? You know what I mean?
Yep. I think that's cool.
Well, that can influence a lot of things. Like when I make tracks, everybody does it differently, but like I generally start with making my drums and then I figure out what the lead part is going to be and then build everything in between it. Because like your drums are going to control the groove, right? Like you can either have something super swingy and syncopated. Now you know you're going down the lighter jazz area, or like maybe you're going to have like a really aggressive like 4-on-the-4 kind of beat. Right. Now you know that you're working with something darker.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you make like albums? Do you make bodies of work, or do you just play your produced tracks in your set?
So the answer is both.
Okay.
I'm like relatively new to being a producer. I've been like serious about it now for about a half a year. So I'm working on a bunch of tracks to put together for an album for the end of the year. But like the way that most DJs do it these days is they will have that done like a year before it's going to be released and just start sprinkling the songs in to build the hype for the release. And then like you'll send it to other artists that you look up to, right? Like I might send it to a number of DJs that run labels and hope maybe they'll listen to it and, you know, maybe it'll be good. But once you get to a certain area where people are like listening to you, that frequency increases. And like when bigger DJs are playing your shit and people are like, whoa, like what is that? Now the hype machine has been fed.
Snowball.
And then you release it.
Right.
When you get to a point like that.
Yeah, that's really, really cool. I'm a tiny bit removed from the DJ culture, but like you just talking about it is really bringing back like a lot of memories. I just remember when DJs would do their own remixes to other artists' music, and it's like they didn't even contact the artist. But the remix just blew up so much and everybody loved it. And artists is just
you got to be careful with that today, because like back then it was harder to, well, I mean, depending on how popular the person was you were going after. Like if you were a DJ in the 80s and you were remixing Madonna songs and now that's flying throughout the club, like chances are she's going to hear it because she was probably at the club partying too. Yeah. And if you haven't crossed your T's and dotted your I's, you might be looking at a copyright lawsuit.
Yeah.
Today, it's really easy for people to figure that out because of all the technology we have and all the resources we have. So generally the rule of thumb is if you're gonna remix a track, there's two ways to do it. If you want to release it and like eventually like have it be on Spotify and be like a part of your identity as an artist, you got to reach out to that artist first and be like, hey, I really like your work. I want to remix it. Maybe they'll give you the original stems so that you can now make it like an official thing. They're putting their stamp on it. But then like there's times where you're like, I'm going to remix like, I don't know, a James Brown song. You're not going to hear back from James Brown's camp. Like you're just not. And that's okay. You could still make the remix, but it's got to be released for free. There can't be any monetary gain on it from like sales of
like
records or
that's what rappers used to do with mixtapes.
The mixtape.
Right?
That's the whole. That's how 50 Cent like really blew up. He remixed like everything, and everybody loved it. And then all of a sudden, he was just huge. And then the next word was like, Eminem just signed 50 Cent for $1 million. Like street news, and people were like, "This is crazy." But yeah, I can see that. Do you think it's because of like hardcore sales, like actual tangible sales of records back in the days? Like you were able to sell a record and make some money, so somebody could remix your joint, and you know, you already made money off of that record, compared to now where it's like streaming and somebody remixes your joint and you're like, hey man,
whoa, I only
made like 10 cents.
0.01 cents.
I think they both fall in the same category. It's just like that's the legal precedent that's been set. And if there is like, you know, some sort of IP law protection, I don't know what the correct word is, Fred, I'm not a lawyer, but if there's some sort of legal parameter around that record, like that's just how it's always going to exist, whether you were remixing it in the 90s or today. But I think that the pull for today is if you're going to remix somebody else's record, like it's more to build attention to you. Like you want to get it out there on the streaming platforms because somebody like, let's say I would never do this, but let's say I remix a Justin Bieber song, right? And that got approved and that was signed off on by his camp. Now my stuff is going to be showing up in his stuff. And like there's hundreds of millions of people who listen to his music around the world. So that's like really what the pull is, to get the attention. But nobody makes money selling records today. Like it's all live performance. It's all merch that you sell with it. It's creating events. Like in the DJ world, you'll see every DJ has like their own label now. Like they just self-release most of the time. And then sometimes we'll send their tracks to other record labels because the idea is now you can build an identity around that label. Now you're throwing parties in that label's name. Now you're having merch with that name. Sometimes you're getting sponsored by people. Like that's how it's just been a shift in the revenue stream over the years.
So it's more of like creating your own ecosystem.
Exactly. You have to, the ecosystem's everything today. You can't just sell records. You're going to be in your parents' basement for the rest of your life.
But that's something I think is really cool about that, because back in the day, like let's say, I don't know, 80s, you really like an artist, right? You are basically beholden to whatever the label wants to do. Right?
Yeah.
Because like, oh, I really liked it. They might have an album that's been done and recorded, but the label doesn't even put it out for 2 years.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And there's nothing you can do about it. But now if you're an artist, you can create all of this. Okay, you have this, you're putting out this music, you're going to make your own YouTube video showing the behind the scenes of this music. You're going to show, you can sell, you see the shirt that I'm wearing in the video, you can buy it. You know what I mean? Like it's all that, like if you really want to get into this person, there's so many different avenues to be. And feel like you really know the artist better than back
I kind of like it better like that, honestly. Like, I know, like, a lot of people from the old school be like, no, like, you know, this is my art, like, record sales. And, like, you're right. It's your art. You have every right to feel about it, that way about it. You have every right to protect it as a revenue stream like that. It's just today, like, there's all these different avenues that music can be enjoyed.
Right.
And I feel like if you're just looking down the lens of, like, you know, this is a record that I'm going to sell, you're kind of cutting yourself off to a lot of fun that you could be having. And like, you really like, you know, you want to build the community. Yeah. Like that's bigger in electronic music than anything. You know, like a lot of like rock bands today, like I'll use, I don't know, popular rock band. Like, I don't know, somebody give me a popular rock band. I'm pretty removed these days.
I don't know, Arctic Monkeys?
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Like when you go to, they're making money on concerts and then like their records, and that's kind of it, right? Like you're going to a concert to see them.
And the merch at the concerts, obviously.
Yeah, the t-shirts, the this, the that. When you're electronic artists, like you're now making an ecosystem where like your label is now taking over a stage at a festival, and you invite other artists that you're friends with to be on that. So now like everybody's contributing to this, and then maybe next time it's their label, and then maybe next time it's some other label. Right. Like now you're building this ecosystem across fan bases. Right. You know, some people like rock bands, like if you listen to Arctic Monkeys, are you going to listen to, I don't know, like, I don't know, somebody give me another band.
Your turn.
I'm so bad at
Your
this.
turn.
Strokes.
Yeah, are those necessarily cross-contaminating all the time? Like, are they playing shows together? Are they going to be on a lineup together? Now, as a result of it, like, let's say you're booked in the same city, you know, on the same night. Like, now you got to choose between the Arctic Monkeys and, you know, and the Strokes. True. When you're a DJ, it's a lot more easy for everybody to come together and drink from the same fountain, so to speak. And you're all getting paid for it. Like, these like big DJs get paid a lot of money. People don't realize that. A festival performance for like, you know, a big guy like John Summit, he's probably getting like $250K for that. Yeah. But because he's also built the ecosystem now across all these different types of fan bases. Like bass heads listen to John Summit now. Right. Riddle me that. Like, no, he built the market. That's how it works.
And that's what I just think. I think it's super important for any artist, whatever genre you're in, to try to do something like that.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's kind of like we're kind of trying to do similar things to that. And like I feel like this is like the first show we're putting on, and it's with you. You know what I mean? So like it's kind of like a similar thing. It's like hopefully like maybe if they like you, they would like us too, and vice versa.
Exactly.
Like if somebody might like the music that I do or that we do, they'd be like, oh, Side After Dark is cool. What else are they doing? And then they'd like, oh, we have this show. And then they listen to the show, they see you, they're like, oh, well, I'm vibing to this too. And then cross-pollination, whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's the goal.
And that could also be something that grows. Like as we continue to do shows, we could have other shows with different DJs, other acts that we think would be like one cohesive like night.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Not necessarily all electronic music or house music at the same time, but it could start with somebody doing like something slower. We come in, pull it up a little bit, close up the night, DJ, you know what I mean? And it could all be leading into the same thing.
Yeah.
You know?
That's the goal, man. That's why I'm really excited for this, because like getting to tap into a fan base of more like, you know, non-electronic music that might be willing to give this a chance. Like that's great. Like that's a huge opportunity for me.
Yeah.
And then vice versa with you guys too. Like people, you know, I listen to like a lot of house music, and like I will admit my taste is a little bit narrow these days just because I'm so into getting myself going. But like there's plenty of people out there that are going to listen to like a set from me and then hear what you guys are doing and be like, wow, that's really cool too. And that's a chance for you to tap into a market of people that like might not just come to an individual show of just bands.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So look at this. We didn't even have to talk about it before, but we're clearly on the same page.
Yeah, which is so cool.
Synergy.
It literally started out in like steps, and we passed by that venue by your place. Like,
this place is like 2 blocks from my apartment.
Oh no! Okay, cool, nice.
Yeah. And we were like, well, you know what would be a cool idea? We should start. I think it was like after a night with you, right? We hung out.
I think we came to your last show.
Yeah. Didn't we hang out with you? And didn't we go towards home in the same Uber? And we started talking about.
Holy shit, I don't remember. If it was after a late night, I don't remember.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I was also pretty fucked up.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
I'm going to go with yes, but I can't confirm. Really? But I was probably there.
Yeah. And then now
you
we're
were
here.
there. It's your show.
Now we're here.
Oh yeah, I was there.
You were
that's
there.
What I'm saying. I still, allegedly. Shit. Yeah. So, wow. It's funny because we saw this place. Yeah, like you were saying, we saw this place we passed by so many times. Thought this place looked really cool. The first time we actually went in was like 2 weeks ago, after we had already been scheduling the show, just because we thought it was a cool place to do and the location was good. And then we actually played. They were like, wait a minute, this is actually like sick.
Nice.
Like whenever you go there, you're gonna be like, this setup is fucking wild.
Nice.
Yeah.
How was was it like well attended?
I mean, we just went to an open mic and there was still like 70 people there.
Yeah.
Really?
There were a lot of people.
Okay, cool.
And
so it's a venue people go to.
Yeah,
people will go there just because they like the
making
venue.
They're definitely making their little community there as well. And it's like right in the middle of Bushwick.
Nice.
You know what I mean?
Awesome.
Like a lot of people that are going to be into, creative type of thing are going to be around there. So I mean, literally, I walked by before just coming home from work, and I've just seen people crowded outside.
Yeah,
I'm glad you brought that up because, like, now I'm thinking, I've been thinking a lot lately, like, what kind of set would I do for this? Like, because my style is like a little more, like up tempo, not aggressive, but like I definitely go a little bit faster. I'm definitely like about like kind of getting you into like that. Like you're not, I hate to use the word trans, but like it's like a very like perpetual fast kind of experience.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking like this one might be a little more diverse and like maybe bring it down a little bit slower. Try to have things that might grab people that are like you guys were just saying they're there because they just love the venue and they're having a night out.
Right.
Like those are people I still want to grab.
Yeah.
So like maybe those like 135 BPM bangers that are super hard, maybe leave those on the shelf for this and maybe go a little bit more down the middle to try and make it a little bit more approachable to different people.
Interesting.
That's good to know. I did not know that.
Well, it's funny because on the reverse, when we're writing our set list, we're like, okay, so what would go well going into Nick's set? You know what I mean? So it's like, because we could do some of the slower songs, or we could start with the slower songs and then work it up to faster songs, or start with like more acoustic songs and then work into more electronic songs, building up the night. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm always a big fan of like building the energy like as up as you can.
Yeah.
Like even in my own sets, it depends. Like most of you guys have seen me play like late at night. So like when you're playing late at night, like there is no more energy building up. Like just send it. Like just send it out there. But like when you're playing at a more like an appropriate time and again like on a mixed genre lineup, that build up definitely has to be there throughout the set. You don't want to come out with just all your bangers in the beginning and then fill in the gaps. You want to build it to that ending point.
Well, and the interesting thing is, because when you talk about a build-up, I think a lot of people might just think you mean like literally speed of the music, but that's not all that it means.
No.
It's like,
You know what I mean? Like, because we'll be like,
That's not what I'm referring
We'll do the
to at
start one, and we'll do one that's really fast, and then we'll do one that's a totally different vibe. So it's like a full journey.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And then by the time the end of the set, you're like uplifted.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's such an art to creating set lists that I've been really getting into lately. Because it's like you have to think of, okay, the vibe
It's
of
just
this
as important as
goes
the
into
performance.
this, and then how does this? Yeah, because if you have all certain songs at the beginning and then like a different kind at the end, it would almost feel like two different shows.
Yeah.
You know
exactly.
what I mean? But it needs to be one thing.
Yes, you want to have it
Yeah.
be one cohesive unit.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's an art to that, and I love it.
Yes, there is. Yep.
Creativity.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Now, like, as an artist, I feel like I have to do multiple things. Do you feel like did you feel like that from the beginning, or did you have the world tell you, you got to get merch, you got to get this, you got to make a cartoon, you got to, you know?
No, I've kind of just, honestly, the thing I like about it the most is just like, I've kind of just been doing exactly what I want to do, which has just been the music right now. Like, I'm not a big enough of a deal yet that like, I'm going to be selling t-shirts and stuff or anything like that. But like, I've kind of just been doing exactly what I want to do. And that is bringing a different sound to every set. Like, I am a big fan of like my personal artistic touches to like, I want to surprise people. I never want people to come to my set and be like, this is what I thought I was going to get. And that's what you got. I hate that. Like, that's just my personal preference. I hate that. I want people to be like, wow, I had no fucking idea that was going to happen. And that made it like way cooler.
That is
so that's like why all my sets have been like very different. And I mean, not like super duper different. Not like I'm playing, you know, dubstep and then I'm now all of a sudden I'm a hip hop DJ. But like, I've been bringing a lot of different flavors of house. And like every set that I've played on the public record as of lately, like all the shows I've gotten booked for have been like something kind of different. Like I was saying earlier about the time, like the show I played in April at Listen, that was, I was on
3 in the morning.
duty. Yeah, I was on closing duties from 2:30 to 4. So like that was more aggressive, more like just like kind of bump, bump, bump. And then at the end, I let it get a little light just because we were closing the club out. And you got to bring everybody down, you know, back down to earth.
Right.
But then when I played on that boat party, the Truth and Lies boat party a couple of weeks ago, that was at 6 p.m. in the sun on a boat. So like things changed.
Nice.
You wanted to do the reverse. You wanted to build the energy to the end of it to carry to the next DJ. And then that was a bit more of a diverse set. That had like more stuff in it that was, dare I say, like digestible by more people. You know, it wasn't as aggressive as what I was doing at 3 o'clock in the morning.
That's my favorite outside party time. Right around 6, you know, it's like the sun's, you know,
just starting to go down.
You hear the beats a little bit. And you're like, I think I'm gonna get a glass of wine over there.
Golden hours approaching.
So nice.
Yeah, I do. I have to say though, my favorite time to play is late at night. I like to get aggressive. Not like super aggressive. Like I'm not ever playing like techno where you're like pumping your fist and like grrr, like in the crowd. But like I like to be like up tempo, like above 130 BPM, and I like to have like a little bit of a darker flavor sometimes, and like that. So like those shows that I get that are like super duper late, those are like kind of my favorite. Even though the crowd's usually not as big, but like I could just be wild.
How do you not want to party at that time though? That is like party.
Yeah, if you're there,
I mean, you're the leader.
Party,
you're the leader, I guess. Yeah.
Well, you are and you aren't. Like when you're performing that late at night, like you also have to remember that you kind of have to keep your wits about you. Like, you know, like because that's the hardest part of playing that late at night is like you're at the party, but like you're not really at the party.
Right.
Like you can't be fucked up when you're getting up there at 2 o'clock in the morning. It's just going to go downhill real fast.
and everyone's gonna hate you.
But for my musical taste, that's like that time accommodates me the most.
Right.
Like, I'm naturally a night owl.
There's
anyway.
no limits. You're like, I'm fucking going for it.
Yeah, like this is my show now.
Right.
Like, I'm doing exactly what I want to do. And I get like way more experimental. Like that set that I played at Listen, I had so much fun.
Yeah, that was a good
It was
time.
dark. It was weird at times, and like it was really groovy.
Yeah.
And that's like typically what I like to get going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
That was a great show. I was like, I don't really do drugs. So I was fucking at that show at 3 in the morning, just super tired, but I was still vibing, bro. That was a good time.
Yeah,
but
man, that was my goal. I was trying to keep everybody up.
But it is important though to like, especially like if you have people like, obviously you want to have people that are your fans that are come see you at multiple shows. You don't want them to see the same show twice ever.
No.
Right.
Like that would be terrible. Like as me as a fan, if there's someone that I really like and I go see them 2 times, I'm like, this is the exact same set list. You did the exact same. I'm not going to see you again.
That's an immediate write-off for me.
There's not going to be a third time.
No, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. And that's happened before. Like I used to be really into like more of like the bass side of electronic music. And there were times where like I'd go see like, you know, multiple weeks in a row. I'd be like in one place one weekend, the next place the next weekend. And I was like, that was like materially the same thing. Like, why did I pay all this money to travel here to come see this?
Right.
And like it kind of started to get like a little distasteful for me. House music, generally like the artists that are like the leaders in the, you know, the quote unquote underground, you're never getting the same thing.
Right.
Ever. Because they don't know what they're doing till they're doing it.
Ah, that's the best.
And that's how I do it. I do that most of the time. Sometimes, like as of recently, I've done more prep for my sets because like these are big opportunities that I just want to make sure I nail it.
Right.
But like as I accelerate and get more consistent booking, I'm gonna just go up there and like what I feel like doing on the spot is what's gonna happen.
Well, because the more experience you get, the more you know what the reaction is going to be. The more you can gauge. Okay, I know people like this song at this time. People like this song at this time, and then you know, especially when you're saying like in the moment, you can just be like feeling okay. This is the time for this one. You know what I mean? And then next thing you know,
the only thing you really do like as a, like when you're like at least in my opinion, like when you're a consistently performing DJ, like you're playing 3 or 4 gigs a week, sometimes more depending on what time of the year it is. When you go up to perform, the only thing that you have prepared is the songs that are going to be on that USB.
Right.
Like you give it a little bit of thought. You're like, I don't want to have my 5,000 song master playlist because like then you're never going to fucking find anything.
Right.
It's just like overwhelming decisions. But like if you put like 100, you know, you're playing for 2 hours, you're like 100 tracks is enough of a sample size for me to pick out the like 50 that are going to make it into tonight's set.
Right.
Like that's usually the only prep you're doing.
Right.
And then you get comfortable down. And once you've had these different groups, you get more familiar with your groups. You start to recycle your groups and add things and take things out. You just get more comfortable as time goes on.
Right.
That's really all there is to it.
What else do you want to do besides the music? Like, do you want to like produce artists? Stuff like that?
I haven't gotten that far yet. I'd love to work with other artists and like, you know, produce tracks and put out other beats with like other artists that I look up to and stuff. I would love to get my own label going at some point in the future. Like I'm still a while away from that, but like once I have like a repertoire of like consistently released music, then I might be like, okay, I'm going to start my own kind of label and like bring other artists up that I feel like people are sleeping on that kind of fit into like the vibe that I'm going for. I love the concept of A&R. I think that's like really, really, really important like for all DJs to be doing. Because if you're just a DJ that, you know, you can make a living getting booked all the time, that's fine. But like people want to create that like family feeling around like a label. And like, you know, you see record labels out there, like, I don't know if you've ever heard of Defected over in the UK. They are like as big as anything that exists in the world to that community. And they've successfully built it over the last 35 years of just all these artists that contribute to the vibe that they're doing. Now they have their own festival. They have their own, you know, like they have something of everything in the business.
I love stuff like that.
That's the goal, is to get to that point.
Right.
Yeah, that was really cool. I feel like the greatest like hip hop embodiment of that was probably like Swiss Beats with Rough Riders. Right. Like he was like him. He was a DJ. He was just making beats. That's all he was doing. And then all of a sudden he had artists, right? And people were coming out and he's producing different artists. Or you'll have like a Funk Master Flex who will bring out like smaller artists. And these are like real urban artists. So they're most likely not going to hit super mainstream. They're probably going to last kind of like a Lumi D status in a way. And that's cool because those are songs like you'll remember. Like, you know what I mean? Like nobody's really checking for Lumi D anymore, but when you think about that song that she had, that Uh-Oh song, you're like, that was a vibe.
Yep.
Like, that was really
DJs
cool.
are still remixing that today.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Yeah, I was just asking. Just want to know what you're thinking about.
It's funny that you brought up Funk Master Flex. My friend sent me a video the other day. You know his like coined sample, like the DJ Funk Master Flex. That came from an interview on the Conan O'Brien. Oh, no, it was the David Letterman show. Rosie Perez was talking about him. And when
Funk
he said his
Master
name.
Flex night.
It's
hard to get a ticket.
Hard to get a ticket. The pastiest dude on TV, and like Funk Master Flex made a career out of having his sample.
I always wondered how, I was like, how did he get David Letterman to say that? Because he had that sample for years and Letterman was huge. Like, it's not like, you know, it was just like a regular cable access talk show host. So I'm like, how did he get Dave Letterman to say that? And then, I heard about that it was like a Rosie Perez interview.
Yeah.
And she was like, oh, I was at the Palladium and it was Funk Master Flex night. And David Letterman was like, Funk Master Flex night.
Yep.
Like, he's basically asking, is that right? Did I say it right? Oh, well, hard to get a ticket for that, I'm sure. Like, he's totally joking, but it sounded like he was really plugging him.
Yep.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's the beauty of like all sample-based music, is that like you take these things that just exist in the world like as not music, and they become music.
Yeah.
And like you can do anything to it.
Yeah.
That's what I love that. I think that's real cool.
I miss that. I miss that art of sampling. People, a lot of people, I mean, well, you think about like Wu-Tang and stuff like that, another producer, some people like took everything, you know, where you like, you listen to old records now, you're just like, God, did the RZA take everything? Did he sample just everything? You can't even watch Scarface because like Mobb Deep took the whole soundtrack and made that into their album and stuff. But I do miss that though. I miss like when people used to sample old black and white movies and you just hear it in a rap song. Like you can hear the quality. Like, you knew it was an old black and white. You don't know what movie it is, but like that sounds so good.
But you know it's classic.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, a perfect example of that is I don't know if you guys have ever heard of the DJ Zed's Dead.
Yeah.
They're huge in the bass world.
I've seen them.
They're literally, their name is based off of Pulp Fiction. And like they use that sample of like, where she's like, whose chopper is this? Zed, baby. Like that made them superstars, like that sample. But they had a song called White Satin, which was like a sample of the original White Satin that came out back in the day. And it was like that song took them like to the top of the mountain.
That's insane.
And it's a really good track, to be fair. They're like a dub artist that I love because they're not like overly aggressive where you're like, oh my God, stop it. It's like really groovy and kind of like hypnotic almost. Really, really good record. Still hits like 15 years later.
Really?
It's so wild to think of the exponential growth of music technology. Like in the year 1900, did they have recording? Or was that
I don't think
later? So. Like, so if you wanted to hear music, you would have to go somewhere.
You had to go see
You would have to go to like an orchestra.
Some
or
guy
whatever.
made a mandolin out of like used parts from his business. It was like, look, I made this guitar. And
there's
like, now
there's no
around.
listening to music in your house unless you have musicians in your house.
Right. You're like,
you know what I mean?
And you're like, play
play
me some music.
Oh Lord.
I want a song now, please. But no, like I'm thinking, like that's crazy though. Like literally, like a little over 100 years ago, you went from not even being able to record to being able to one track at a time, then 4 tracks, then 32 tracks, then sample, then take the sample, then make it into something else. Now it's just one track to something else. It's just 4 tracks.
Now.
It's crazy.
It's
really,
now,
it's insane.
Imagine being like a music god and seeing the progression, just like looking down on all the musicians, like
I totally didn't mean to do this.
Right, right. Like they're gonna come up here soon. Like,
well, you know what's really? You ever see that interview with Jim Morrison, what he's talking about, like what he's basically describing what electronic music was going to be?
Yes.
He was like, I'm assuming it's very high.
His band, like they were some of the first people to bring like organs and synths to the mainstream. Like he was already there. He was already there. Like,
well, dude, there's literally an interview. It was one of his like last interviews, I think, because he was like fatter and he had the beard like towards the end of his life. And someone was asking about the future of music. He's like, you know, I could see a future where it's just one person with lots of machines and tapes and loops making everything just by this one person. Everyone's like, what?
Yeah.
Really? Are you sure? And then, but that was in like, whatever, 1968.
Yeah.
That seemed like wild. Like they just had like, they just invented guitar pedals.
Dude, he was so fucking far ahead of his time. Everybody just like kind of knew him for like the bad parts.
Yeah.
You know, and ultimately what kind of did him in. But like, he was so fucking far ahead of his time. Like he was an alien in the music scene.
Oh, he was an alien in life.
Yeah. He was doing shit that like nobody else had even thought to do yet. And like, here we all are doing it right now.
Yeah. Shock rock, goth rock.
Certain people just have like reverb. I can't say it. They just reverb throughout time.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like
they echo through. I believe that's the term.
Yeah,
echoing throughout
you know what I'm
time.
trying to say.
Yeah.
Everyone knows what I'm trying to say, right?
Yeah.
But it's really true though. Like this one person, like a Jimi Hendrix or a Bob Marley. It's like they were only there for a couple years, but that is that's gonna go throughout time forever. As long as people listen to recorded music.
Yep.
That shit is gonna be there.
Nobody's topped Jimmy yet.
No,
He's
I don't
been
know.
the champion since he took the stage.
Bro, Dark Side of the Moon still on the charts, no?
Still on the chart.
or at least for 30 years after. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, some things just hit a certain level that it's like, it's groundbreaking.
Yeah, so it's funny you brought up Pink Floyd. One of my favorite DJs right now is this guy named Chris Stussy. He's just like, he's from the Netherlands, which is like where most of the good house music, in my opinion, is coming from these days.
You heard it here.
I fucking love the Dutch. What do you call it? He just did a remix of Another Brick in the Wall. And like he hasn't released it yet, but like people are like lining up at the door for his sets to hear this.
I definitely saw one of our mutual friends put that on her story.
It's fun.
Yeah.
It's Thea probably. She loves that track. Yeah. It's a banger. Like it's super, super good. But he kept true to like the original like vibe of the song.
Well, that was a melancholy song. That was almost a dance song though. That was like a disco song with that beat. It was 4 on the floor.
But it was like an anti-establishment. Yeah. Like it was meant to be like, it wasn't meant to put a smile on your face. It was meant to like evoke a feeling about something they felt personally about.
Right.
And I feel like the way that Chris Stussy remixed it is like really true to those roots. Like he kept it dark. He kept it like you're not going to be smiling when you hear it.
Yeah.
And like kept like those roots to it. I think it's one of the best ones that's out there, if not the best.
Interesting.
That's such an interesting. Well, fun fact about that song. So originally there was only going to be one verse. And then they were like, well, we want it to be the record label, going back to fucking record labels again, but this time they did something right. They were like, well, we want this to be a single. It needs more than one verse. And I don't know who, I think it was Roger Waters, was like, just do the same verse again. And they were like, okay. And then that song became a hit.
Yeah.
Like, that was literally it. They're just like, just do it again.
Sometimes you got to keep it simple.
Yeah.
Right?
The best songs are simple.
Yeah.
Those that make it complicated.
I know.
Congratulations.
I posted this on my story the other day. This year, as of May 24, Eagles beat out Zeppelin for most record sales worldwide because it kind of goes up and down.
Yeah.
In the country, it's like Eagles, Michael Jackson. It's always like up, down, up, down. But like worldwide, it's like Eagles. But I never thought Eagles would beat out like Zeppelin. But like Eagles songs are so simple. Sometimes they are just like ridiculously simple.
You only have to hear them once to know all the words.
Exactly. Yep. Exactly. Them and like Bob Marley too. Bob Marley, I'll hear a Bob Marley song I haven't heard in like since I was 8. And I'm like, I can't believe I know this word for word still.
Yeah.
But like simple is like a lot of times the formula.
That's a well-made song.
Well, it's kind of like what we were talking about before is like the notes, the spaces in between. Because if you try to make things too complicated and you're doing too much, it doesn't stick out. Nothing really sticks out. You know what I mean?
Like
sometimes you have to pull back.
I know so many talented guitar players out there who like they write like ridiculously complicated music, and then like you wonder why there's only 30 dudes. There's no women there. There's just 30 dudes who are all swinging their arms like animals. But and like that's all you're ever gonna get from the crowd because like those people have gravity because you know maybe their brain is wired the same way, but it's just not digestible. Like it's fun to jam like that in private, but when you're putting out work that people are gonna listen to, it's got to be able to be grabbed by everybody.
Hell yeah. True. I just learned how to play Midnight Rider by the Allman Brothers, right? Because that's like one of my, it's a never skip for me. And all it is D, G major 7, and a C. And I was like, I played it and I was like, get the fuck out of here. Like, that's it. That's all. It's like, and I was, in my head, I'm like, it's the bass. That's all you need is the bass. So I'm like playing, I'm like strumming, and I'm like, doom, doom, doom. And I'm like, holy shit. It's just like 1, 2, 3. And it's like, he's strumming the same chord for like 2 verses almost, right? And I'm just like...
Well, see, that's the way they structured that song, though. That is not a guitar-centric song.
No, it doesn't even have a solo.
Song.
Yeah,
that is all vocals. That is just meant to be there to fill up the extra frequencies that the vocals can't accommodate.
Okay.
That's it.
Yeah.
Like, that song is like, you hear... It's another one. You hear that song one time, and you're like, I know it.
Yeah, exactly.
I can hear it on the radio in my dad's car and be like, oh, shit, I still remember it.
Yeah, I can hear it every night. Like, I'm just like, I'm like, I'm not going to skip this again. I'm like, damn, this is ridiculous.
It's a timeless piece of music.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's crazy how things like that work.
Yeah.
What is time, though?
A social construct.
Time is a place where you party at on July 13th.
Oh!
Plugged it.
FirstLive Brooklyn. I don't remember the address. Central Ave.
219 Central Ave.
Oh, you're 219 Central Ave. Sifa with the assist. So come through. Come see Side After Dark. Come see Eskay tear it down. If you can't make it in person, there are live stream links available, so check that out as well. You are going to have a good time if you're there in person. If you're there on the live stream, it's going to be amazing.
I can promise you won't be disappointed.
And there you go. We'll see you there.
Later.
Cool.
Just like that.
219 adds up to a 3, by the way. Just want y'all to know.